Hey everybody, Kyle Sasser here, and it's everybody's favorite time of the month. That's right, real estate market statistics time. These real estate market statistics are for Pinellas County for December 2024. So you might look at this report and say, Kyle, you said that this is December 2024 numbers. Why does it say November on the front of this? And the answer is because we really compare monthly statistics. A day is way too short, and a week is also too short of a time frame. So we compare month to month. The other piece of this is we compare year to year. So we are comparing November 2024 numbers to November 2023 numbers. Now, I do pay a little bit more attention to, the month to month numbers because the market has been a little funky the last couple of years. We haven't had a clear trajectory like we had the previous 5 years. So I've been paying a little bit more attention to the month to month numbers. But the natural real estate cycle is in the course of 12 months, you will have a natural ebb and flow of sales. Obviously, in the wintertime months, things tend to slow down with the holidays and all that, which is what we're getting into right now. And then obviously the summertime is usually a time when a lot of people are looking at houses. So you will naturally expect to see a lot more houses for sale in the summertime than in November and December. And so by comparing year to year, comparing 2024 to 2023, that gives us a chance to say, okay, so compared to this time last year, how are we doing? So the story for the Dayton Metro Statistics, which covers an area from roughly Piqua to Springboro and West Alexandria to Xenia, the story by and large has been, we have built up a little bit of inventory, but prices have continued to climb for the last couple of years. And that trend, well, put it this way, we are in the winter doldrums, which means that things are taking a little bit longer to sell. And statistically, yes, there is a little bit of a price decline, but we're about where we would expect to be given market conditions and for the normal swing of the annual cycle. Woo, Nelly, Pinellas County. So obviously a lot has happened in Pinellas County in the last few months, no less than 2 hurricanes. And I will get to the stats, I promise. But it's important for me to kind of go over what is in the mix. And some of this is going to be my personal experience, having flooded in Shore Acres before, Tropical Storm Eta in 2020, and seeing how all of that played out. And then kind of extrapolating that out to the larger Pinellas County region. Now, what usually happens is there's what I call the hurricane hangover. So there's a storm, it's coming through, it's coming close, near miss. Whenever you have a hurricane come by, insurance shuts down, closings stop, and there is a big blip in the real estate stats. What's interesting about the 2 hurricanes that we had is they basically covered like a 2-week span of 2 months, September and October. And obviously the additional change is that, Pinellas County was significantly impacted by these hurricanes. Not just the beaches, it was the beaches, it was, Shore Acres, it was Riviera Bay. It was even sections of Clearwater, which is usually pretty high and dry up there. The rainfall that came from Milton overwhelmed it and flooded a bunch of houses. So whenever Tropical Storm Eta came through in 2020, I was actually selling the house across the street from me at that point in time. Our elevations were, and here's the thing, Tropical Storm Eta was not anything like Helene or Milton by any stretch of the imagination, but it did flood a lot of houses in the Saint Petersburg area. And what I noticed was, basically the same thing. So flood comes through, everybody does the recovery, people cut out the drywall up to 4 feet, pile it up by the street. I was actually selling the house across the street at that point in time, and the setup was kind of interesting. So my house was 4.4 feet above sea level. We had about a foot of water in the house with that one. The other at-grade house across the street was about 3.4 feet above sea level. And then the house next to that was the one I was selling, which was a stilt house. And obviously with the stilt house, the first living space was up at, like 11, 12 feet. So the second story did not flood. What happened was we had, 4 or 5 feet of water in the road. And then somebody decided, hey, I have a lifted F-350. High tide is the time that I need to leave. And so they produced a huge bow wave, which crushed everybody's garage door and promptly flooded all the houses there. I believe I did another video on this, but I was actually pumping out the garage and was ahead of the floodwaters. I was actually dropping the floodwater in the garage, and then this person came by, caved in my garage door, and basically within 20 seconds, I had, a foot of water in the house. So the recovery effort from that in Shore Acres was the same thing. We tore out everything up to 4 feet. All the cabinets went out, all the furniture and all that's piled up by the street. I had the house across the street, the Stilt house, under contract at that point. I was representing the seller on that one. Obviously, the buyer's concerned about their house. They come out, they look, they see the damage to the garage door and that it's been caved in. And they also see all of the drywall and cabinets piled up by the street. And then they promptly cancel the contract. So they're like, we don't want to deal with this. We don't even want to risk it. Pull the ripcord, let's go. So at that point, the owner of that house was like, Kyle, what do we do? I want to sell the house. I was like, just sit tight. I was like, I think that we should take the house off the market for a few weeks until everything kind of gets cleaned up. Because my hunch was that human memories are short. Just people are kind of people. If you can't see something directly, personally, it is hard to keep in mind that it is an actual risk, especially when the area is so appealing. And I promise that this is going to tie into kind of the stats and what I'm thinking is probably going to happen. So anyway, we temporarily took that house off the market. My house took 2 years to put back together. A lot of that was supply chain because of COVID and all that. But anyway, the house that I was selling across the street, that one we put back on the market as soon as most of the debris in the neighborhood had been picked up. There was still containers and pods and stuff like that in driveways, but most of the actual debris had been picked up. So once that was done, we put it back up on the market, and we were pretty quickly back under contract and successfully sold that home. Now, let's talk about current day. Obviously, the scale of Helene and Milton is a lot bigger than Tropic Storm Eta was. Most people, if you said, hey, how many storms were flooded in Tropic Storm Eta, they wouldn't be able to tell you. And honestly, as a resident, it was extremely difficult to find even estimated storm surges for Tropical Storm Eta, but it was just the right mix. It was about 5 feet. Now with Helene, we definitely had a little more than that. Here is my thought. So anecdotally, again, this is not based on statistics. What usually happens is there's what I call the hurricane hangover. So storm comes through, everyone gets a little skittish about buying a home in an area that had a near miss. You have a period of people backing off, but then eventually new buyers come back and the things kind of resume normal activities. My professional hunch, as well as having lived through this, is that's what's going to also happen with the Saint Petersburg area. It's just going to take a lot longer because the scale is so much larger. But I will say anecdotally what happened is there were so many people affected by Helene and Milton, like people that were immediately flooded in Hurricane Helene especially, that I watched the number of rentals that we had in Pinellas County basically got chopped in a third. Basically, we rented a third of the rentals in Pinellas County within a couple weeks. And on the sales side of things, we had 20% of everything that was available go under contract within, again, about a week. And again, I can only talk anecdotally about my business and my interactions with people. I had more than a few people call me, hey, Kyle, we've been thinking about buying a house or a second house because we were thinking about X, Y, and Z, but we were flooded in Hurricane Helene. That has forced our hand. They were like, Kyle, we have to have a house. We have to buy something as soon as possible. So despite what normally happens, which is people get skittish, we actually had a surge in demand immediately following those two hurricanes. What we're seeing now is probably best described as a split market. So longtime viewers of these statistics on my channel, now you might want to remember back to your mathematics classes with mean, median, and mode, or average and median. So average is when you take, let's say, 5 houses, you add up the sales price of all of those houses and then divide it by 5. That'll give you the average. Median is a little different. Let's say that you have 100 houses that sold. The median price is the point at which there's an equal number of homes for sale above that price and below that price. So it can be significantly different than the average. Typically, I pay more attention to the median sales price because it doesn't swing around as much. It's not as effective by a lot of very low-priced houses or a few very expensive houses selling in a given particular time frame. Since the number of sales is down, though, it does affect it a little more than usual, simply because the sample size is lower than it has been. So if we're only selling 1,000 houses, for example, the median sales price is going to move around a lot more than if we were selling 2,000 or 3,000 homes per month. Well, after all that ballyhoo, let's dive into these Pinellas market statistics. Total number of closed sales was up 2.7% from 666 homes to 684 homes. That is not a lot, by the way. A typical month, I would say, is in the 1,000 to 1,300 single-family homes sold in Pinellas County, so we were significantly down from that. Obviously, we were down last November as well, but overall, buyer demand is down. Now, median sales price is down 3.1% to $475,000. Backtracking a little bit here, number of cash sales is up 23.9% to 316. And that's up from 255. On average, 20 to 30% is what I usually anticipate cash sales being at. And this is about half, a little less than half of total closed sales. And again, this kind of comes into these statistics for the next year or so are going to be very colored by, all of these flooded houses going up for sale. So a lot of these metrics are going to move around considerably. Context is key when looking at all these things. Median sales price is down 3.1% from $490,000 to $475,000. And again, I'm expecting median sales price to come down overall for the county because we have so many flooded homes that are going out for sale. Doesn't necessarily mean that a fully renovated or livable house is going to sell for less money. It might. Kind of depends on how many homes go up for sale, but grain of salt on the median sales price numbers. Average sales price is down 11% to $607,321. Median percent of original list price is down 2.1% from 95.7% and 93.7%. And the median time to contract is up 55% from 20 days to 31 days. That is still very much seller's market territory. There's a little asterisk on that, which is things like median sales price, time to contract, and median percent of original list price. Those statistics only get counted if the house actually sells. And so we'll circle around back to that in a little bit. Total number of new listings is up 26.4% to 1,337. And active inventory is up 25.9% from 2,243 to 2,823. So almost 3,000 houses for sale. So and that puts us at 3.6 month supply, which I know a lot of people like. I think that is a pretty stupid metric because it abstracts way too much stuff because all of those numbers matter. Closed sales matters, new listings matter, active contract matters. So, but looking at this, let's just say, we sold 684 homes. We listed 1,337. So we only sold half of the new listings, which means that active inventory jumped up 2,823. Doom and gloom section, foreclosures and short sales. Foreclosures are down 77.8%, total of 2. Short sales are down 100% to 0. Grain of salt with those is hurricane hangover, courts were closed, etc., etc. So let's take a look, though, and see what median sales price has done throughout the year here. The peak, the highest one that we've ever set was in June 2024 at 489,000, right? Like we've never crossed the $500,000 mark. So we did 489 in June 2024. We might have had one back in November 2023, slightly higher than that, but I would say that is more of a fluke than a true median sales price. Because November 2023, we had it at 490. And if you look back to that video, because I remember that, the median sales price jumped a significant amount and then immediately came down like $40,000. So again, whenever you have a lot fewer houses selling, the median sales price is going to move around a lot more, or potentially move around a lot more. So, but what we can see here is median sales price is at $475,000, which is not that far off of where it was, and is kind of in that normal 12-month cycle. May, June, July, we had 485, 489, 475. We're at 475 now. October, we were down to 460. And then September, we were back up to 475. So median sales price has not really come down that much for the total number of closed sales. However, I am anticipating median sales price to come down as those, flood damaged houses go up for sale and close. So with all that, I know that I usually do quite a bit on the different price points and stuff like that. Again, that has pretty limited utility at this point in time, just because things are all kind of wiggity whack, to quote the great crisscross. There are definitely some standout things to me though. So like median time to contract, 100 to $150,000 houses, that time to contract was up 1,385% to 140 to 104 days. That is a crazy long time, and I can only guess that that is just significantly damaged homes. Time to contract hasn't really changed that much in the other price points, but there's a weird kind of cut though. So like 150 to 200,000 is 26 days. 200 to 250,000 drops to 11 days on market. That's a drop of 26.7%. 250 to 300,000 drop 33% to 12 days. And then everything's back to 40 days, right? Like 300 to 400,000 is at 40 days, which is 110% increase. 400 to 600 is up 94.4% to 35. The problem here with breaking it down by the price points is we have a lot of houses, especially like out on the beach, right? So we had a lot of houses that were selling at $500,000, $600,000 that have the walls cut out to 4 feet, but they're selling for $250,000 now. So again, you always have to keep in mind what's going on in the market. So there has been a big shift in those beach properties that are going to affect a lot of these. Now, what you will notice is you'll see a lot of news stories and stuff like that. Either things are going really good or things are being catastrophic. And part of me, actually doing these videos is it gives me a chance to sit here and talk and kind of think through things to try to determine how to know what the market is doing at any point in time. And we can also see that if we go to new listings by price, we can see that there are more houses that are being listed compared to last year, but like 200 to 250,000, there's 80% more houses that are going up for sale at a total of 45. So that would be, almost doubling the number of homes for sale. And the same thing with inventory, right? If we look at inventory, well, $200 to $250,000 is up 231.6% to 63. The houses haven't changed. And there is only a few neighborhoods in St. Petersburg, Pinellas County, and especially St. Petersburg that have $250,000 single family homes. And the vast majority of these $250,000 houses are not in those areas. They are much more expensive houses that have been significantly damaged that are now up for sale. So for that reason, again, if you would like to look at those numbers, they are here in this report. Feel free to go there and download the report. But all of these statistics are impacted by the events from the hurricane, and so they have to be analyzed within that context. Because if you just say, oh, there's a ton of $250,000 houses for sale in St. Petersburg, you're going to have a bad time. Because yes, they're also a cash only purchase because they are missing their walls up to 4 feet. Now, longtime viewers of this channel know that I do Pinellas County, I do Hillsborough County stats, and they generally tend to follow the same trajectory, right? So far as like, is inventory going up, is prices going up, are they going down, etc. However, every now and then you get what I call split market, which is when they kind of detach from each other. What I think is going to happen, and what I have started to feel happen so far as speaking with clients and things, is we are basically having that in Pinellas County now. Now, obviously, there's different sections of Pinellas County, and all of those sections always sell at a little bit different, price ranges, like the beaches, the 55 plus communities. Dunedin, Clearwater moves a little bit differently than St. Petersburg does. There's always these differentiations. But so far as these stats, which are for Pinellas County, we really have a split market. So, because a lot of the inventory is these flooded homes that are getting listed, right? If you go to Zillow or Realtor.com and you look through the listings in Shore Acres or out on the beaches, it is just house after house after house of the walls chopped up to 4 feet down to the studs, flooded, pools not maintained, all that good stuff. So just house after house after house of that. So the inventory rise that we have seen is a lot of that stuff. And then you have the interior part of the county, which I can tell you is going pretty strong. So obviously, most of my clients, again, we've had that storm hangover where there's not a lot of interest in people buying out at the beaches and stuff. We have had a few people that have called and asked about beachfront, waterfront properties. And, I give them a fair assessment for the risk and explain the pros and cons of living out there, what kind of storm it takes to flood different areas. Because that's the thing, like Shore Acres, Riviera Bay, does that flood frequently? It didn't for a while, for like 15-ish years. There wasn't wide scale flood events there. But the last few years, we've had pretty steady flood events in those areas. But much of the rest of the county, including the beaches, has not seen a lot of catastrophic storm flooding. There are sections that do. There is one section of, I think, Madeira, where on one of the fingers, like when you drive out there, your eyes are literally, and like at high tide, you're at water level in the car with your eyes, or it feels that way at least. But I'm talking by and large with wide swaths of the beach property. So whenever looking through these statistics, it's important to keep that in mind that, these statistics are a snapshot of the entire county. And that includes, and historically everything had kind of been in the similar condition. But what we have now is we have a very strong, stark contrast between flooded and recovering areas, which makes up the majority of the coastal areas, and then the interior house conditions. Now, obviously, your next question is, well, Kyle, why even do these statistics? Or how is this applicable? The obvious follow-up question to this is like, well, why even continue to do this? Why not break this report into two? And continuity is the important thing. So I've been doing these reports for about 6, 7, 8 years now at this point, even before the YouTube channel here. And so even before the YouTube channel here, I would produce these reports for my clients just so we could understand what was going on. So that continuity is important because conditions on the ground are not always going to be like they are now. Now, so far as why don't I break this up into two different reports? Why don't I do a core or, non-flood zone report, and then I can do a beachfront or flood zone report? And the answer is that is only limited utility, and there's much better ways to answer your actual question, which is, am I overpaying for this house? So what I always do for my clients in the course of putting together an offer for them is I look and see what every other house in that neighborhood has sold for. And that is the key to knowing what is the value of a particular house. You can't use these county-wide stats are good for knowing general trends for what's going on in the county. They're not good for arriving at, is this house overpriced? What should be a good offer for this house? So I don't want to break this up into two reports because then I'm doing two videos and it doesn't have a lot of useful information for you. Whenever you're buying a house or selling a house, the most important question is, what are the houses in my immediate vicinity doing? And just for example, if you have a stilt house in Shore Acres that survived the flood, your house is going to recover and sell a lot quicker and for more money than all the houses around that still have the chopped drywall. It's just the nature of the thing. So I know that explanation was a little lengthy, but I think it was important to share. Again, I had seen the same trajectory happen with my own house flooding in my own neighborhood, and the recovery that it took for that neighborhood to come through that. Obviously, Shore Acres has been hit, multiple times, the last couple years, and the results are showing up in the homes that are for sale and the sales prices out there. The beach hasn't quite seen that hit yet, probably because it is such an outlier case for the beaches to have experienced this significant event. But again, people's memories are short. What will happen? And the overall trend is, as the area and the region and the homes recover, the new buyers that are in the market will see the appealing advantage of the houses and forget about the storms that hit. And for those of you that are crying, Kyle, no one's ever going to forget this. This is not the first time that Tampa Bay has been hit by a hurricane. There was a direct strike in 1921 that literally came right up the mouth of Tampa Bay. It put the highest storm surge on record in the Tampa Bay area. It flooded a ton of houses, and no one mentions it. Way more people talk about the Indian burial grounds protecting the Tampa Bay area than they did a actual direct strike less than 110 years ago affecting the area. So people's memories are short, especially if the area has a lot of overall appeal. People want to move to the St. Pete and Tampa Bay area. So that natural inclination is there. It's just human nature. And as an additional follow up, there was someone I spoke to immediately after Helene, and they had rented a house in Shore Acres. And this is after 3 or 4 flood events there in the last 2 years. So they rented a house there. And obviously, obviously the first question is, Shore Acres is known to have flood issues. Why did you rent there? And their answer was, we didn't think it would be that bad. We figured, how bad could it be? So again, people's memories are short. Now, that said, I will definitely always give you the fair assessment for flood risk for whatever house that you're looking at. I'm definitely not going to sugarcoat things. I will tell you the potential downsides of whatever home you're looking at. And the reason why is I want you to be able to make your best home decisions for you. If you're thinking about selling your home and you're like, should I disclose that I had water in the house or made a flood claim? The answer is yes, you have to disclose, and it does not hurt your ability to sell the house. I promise you that your house is going to sell for the price that it is going to sell for if you disclose what happened at the property. If you don't disclose what happened at the property, you will be opening up yourself to potential issues. So don't do that. But I can tell you, I have sold numerous houses that we have had, problematic disclosures on, electrical problems, plumbing problems, leaking, like literal leaking roofs. As long as you disclose it, you can sleep easy at night. So those are the Pinellas County market statistics. A little different than usual, I know. And we're just going to have to take this as it comes, just kind of see how things develop here. Well, I can't say that I'm overly surprised, but it is wild how many houses have gone up for sale that just have those walls cut out. So thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Kyle Sasser. If you would like help finding your own great place in the Tampa Bay area, I would love to help you out. You can reach me at 727-300-2111. Feel free to call or text that number. If you prefer, you can click the contact me link down below. That'll take you to a place where you can book a chat at the time that works best for you. And as always, you can leave a comment, and I promise that I will get back and respond to you. Other than that, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Kyle Sasser, and I'll talk to you soon.